Terry, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. Since the moment I listened to your story, that I watched your TEDx talk, I felt like I needed to talk to you. It's just the way that you inspire people, especially women, to overcome their fears and get the courage from within themselves and start living a better, more fulfilled life. It is really inspiring.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. It's been a journey for me, and I never thought this is what I would be talking about and teaching other people to do from my own life experience. But it's been an honor, and I've gotten so much out of changing other people's lives from hearing my story.
I mean, I'm sure of it. I bet. In fact, I think that you have probably inspired, if not hundreds, then thousands of people just to that accept their fear to overcome it, and it's almost like leading them into this transformational journey of leading that past behind, or at the very least using it as a fuel to move forward. But what inspired you to really dive into this? How do you choose this path?
That's a great question. I had an interesting childhood, which is in my book, or both my books, and I'll get to that in a minute. But later on in life, I became a life coach because I felt like I connected with other people and I could relate to other people. And I loved being a coach to inspire people to live their best life. And through the process, I coached hundreds, thousands of people, and mostly women because a lot of men didn't go to coaching at that time. And I realized how courageous they were, but they didn't see it themselves. So I decided to write my book, 100 Hearts. I gathered a survey on the subject of courage. And when I was published my book, became an author, I was out there doing book signings, and a lady in the audience asked me about my own story of courage. And I looked at her and with a blank face, I had nothing to say. I didn't know what to say. And I realized that I was just like these other women. I had been courageous in my life, but I did not see it in myself. And that led me on my journey to go look back at my life story. And instead of seeing all the different things I'd gone through, the challenges, I saw that there were things not to be ashamed of, but to see that I had been courageous, starting with at 8 years old, running away from my alcoholic mother with my sister to move in with my father, and which was facing a fear of losing the person I loved and needed the most. And I realized it was really an act of courage to seek my survival. And that started the journey of looking at all of my stories this way. And I did the work I needed to do to see that I really had been strong. And I wanted to give that back to other women, other people, not just women, but all people, to know that fear can be used as a motivating factor to turn an obstacle into an opportunity, or trials into a triumph, or being a victim to a superhero. And it's all reframing, stepping back and looking at it from a different perspective.
That is a very inspiring story. And when you talk about your childhood, and this is on your book, Truth, Courage, Love, it's about your life, the struggles you had. Sadly, you had a very dysfunctional, tough childhood, and that can either make you in a way that you gain resilience, mental toughness, or it can completely break you. It can just derail your life. It can shatter your confidence and your sense of identity. But you were able to make it to the other side the way that you did, which not many people are able to do. How were you able to overcome such a major obstacle early on in your life, where you could have either go either way, either just completely going south, or the path that you end up choosing, which is extremely inspiring?
Yes, easily. I could have gone down many different paths that were not good. And I had I had choices along the way to either dig deep and know that I'm much more than my circumstances, or I could become my circumstances, or I didn't let my past define me, but I let it find me. And I can't explain what it is inside of me that always strive to survive. I never gave up on that. And I don't know what the difference is. I think you have to believe in yourself ultimately and love yourself enough to dig deep and overcome the difficulties in life, then life will throw at you. And also forgive yourself. And that's where the truth, courage, and love comes in, is that you have to face what's in front of you, and that's the truth. And it can be an ugly truth. It can be a painful truth. But if you don't face it, then you can't get through it. You can't come to a solution or get to the other side. And it will consume you and it'll control you. And then if you face the truth, then it allows you to take action, which is the courage that lives in all of us. We're all much more stronger and courageous than we think we are. So facing the truth can be facing fear as well. And fear has two meanings, which I've learned throughout my life, that you can forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. We get to choose. We always have a choice. So that's the second one. And then the love also includes forgiveness. That forgiveness allows us to return to love. And if you can't forgive yourself or others, then it holds you back and it holds you down and it holds you in the past. So you want to get into present time and start to see any of your failures or your difficulties or even things that people have done to you as a lesson, and that you don't want them to have power over you, then you need to forgive. And it's just letting go of the negative energy. It's not agreeing with what they've done. And then you get into present time so that you can start to live your life fully again, regardless of the past. And I'm living proof. I can't say it's been easy. And I also have other people in my life that help me along the way. So knowing that people out there want to help you is also a very important step, because a lot of people feel like I'm all by myself and I can't handle this difficulty in my life. And know that people out there, there's good people and resources out there. You don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, you said a lot there, and a lot that I could relate to. One of the things that I think about fear, or just I think about um, our own things that hold us back, is obviously the stories we have created in our own head. And these stories, many of these stories came in our childhood. And I think in many occasions these stories have come, or our brain created stories without our consent, just in a way to explain or to give significance to an event that we experience. The problem is when we're not aware of it, we can have 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years with the same story. It's a part of our identity. It's a part of our reality. And it's so hard to shatter those old stories, right? How can you, or how can people truly not only create the awareness that those stories might not be real, but they're at least real to them, but also how can I either change them or reframe it in a way that they can use it in their favor and not against themselves?
That's a wonderful question. And I have some great examples. I did a lot of work on this with a lady by the name of Byron Katie, and she has a book called The Work. And it teaches us how we can look at what is true today. yes, we have stories that are real, but maybe we can change the meaning of those stories. For example, and it takes reflection. It just takes looking like let's say we were bit by a dog. We had a scary dog experience when we were younger, and now we're 10, 20 years down the road, and there's a cute little dog that comes in, and that doesn't mean that the story is that all dogs are going to bite you. You can reframe that story like, oh, look, this dog's nice, and it's sweet, and it's kind. And one of the stories of how, one of the stories in my life was about not forgiving my mother, and it was consuming me. And I knew I needed help. So I went to a counselor, and she asked me, have you thought about how your mother felt through this experience of losing her children while she was dealing with her addiction? And all of a sudden, it was like lightning went through my body. And I realized that she was hurting just as much or more than I was at the time. And my whole perspective of my mother changed. It's still the same story. So I started to call my mom and just love her and forgive her without expecting anything in return. And then she started to call me back. And we forged a loving, kind, caring relationship. And now I changed the story from not having a mother to having a wonderful, loving, caring mother to this day. So that's one example. It's a step back, reframe, and ask yourself, is that story still true today? And how can I change that story or the meaning of this story? What happens happened, but maybe we can change the meaning.
When you were telling the story of your mom and the way that you were able to forgive her, that requires a lot of courage, that requires a lot of self-awareness, that requires a lot of love. And you could have every single reason to resent her, to just cut ties with her, just like, I don't want to be, I don't want you to be part of my life. And you would have been completely, it would have been completely justifiable. And the amount of effort that you put, not to, because you were a victim, whether you want to feel like a victim or not, at that young age, you were a victim of a dysfunctional family. And I'm just, it's really, it shocks me to a degree, the amount of emotional strength you had to do that. Is, I couldn't even fathom or just imagine how hard that was, because once you cut ties, it's just like, do I cannot change the past. I can only do something today to change the future. And you decided to choose love instead of resentment. How easy or how hard was that transition of getting to a point like, this is what I'm going to do, regardless of what I suffer in the past?
Oh, that's a really good question. It was very difficult because I faced the fear of her not responding. And then that would just make things worse or make me feel worse than I started from. But I had to prepare myself to not have any expectations. And I was doing this for myself and for her. And I know that just forgiving her and making that phone, I made a phone call to tell her I thought she was courageous and how much I loved her. And I just had to not expect anything in return. But I knew it was worth it. If anything, it was going to release me by telling the truth. And no matter what happens, I told the truth. And that relationship was worth it for me because I knew she was a good person. She had recovered. She went back to school to become a registered nurse. So I knew it was worth it. And some relationships are not worth it, and that's okay. And you have to determine that. Like, just make peace with it. Just don't be a victim of that other person, no matter what they've done to you. As far as you can change that victim story, don't let that person have more power over you and let them hold you down or hold you back because of something they've done. It's up to us to decide. We have the power to choose. The story happened, but we can change the meaning of that story and how it affects us for the rest of our life. And I know that's difficult because there's some people who are true victims of very bad circumstances where there's a lot of resources and professionals that can help people with that kind of trauma. So I'm not talking about some trauma that is very difficult for people to even understand. And there's resources for people to deal with that. But even then, some of the most empowering people I know are the people who saw their trauma and they faced it and became empowered in their own life. Regardless, they faced it and they moved on, and they became incredibly powerful people. Oprah is one of them. There's many other people that were traumatized as children and growing up, and they became the best version of themselves.
It's interesting because what your mom probably felt a lot of shame from behaving the way that she behaved, and she was dealing with her own demons at a time. And one of the best things that we can do, not only for ourselves but for other people, well, first of all, when you forgive somebody, it's not for that person, it's just for yourself. It's just for having that peace of mind, and then just come to a place where, you know what, I don't have any resentment towards this person, because at the end of the day, that is consuming me inside.
Yes.
But also, there's a factor of trying to understand what the person might have been going through, and even attach some of how their childhood was, and how that carry all their traumas, and not being able to cope and to deal with them, carry through their adult life, and that's why they were behaving the way that they were behaving. I use that. M- my family was good. It wasn't anything bad, and I was lucky. But as every child, you experience some level of trauma based on their behaviors, and they're trying their best. In many instances, they're trying their best.
Yes.
Nobody
Yes.
teaches you how to raise a kid or how to cope with your own fears. And I remember telling my parents, "Hey, I've made mistakes in my life based on the way that I was raised, the way that I see as a learned behavior from you, or this is the fear I have because of what you guys did. However, I don't. I just want you guys to know that I don't hold anything against you, because I know that most of the guys you did was from a place of love and not mean intended.
Mhm.
It wasn't like I want to screw you up."
Yes.
But that's very hard to reach to that point of self awareness and empathy and understanding. And my question is, I feel that only very few people are able to reach that point. How can people tap into that and be more understanding, be more empathetic, and leave aside their ego or their hurt to try to understand the other person, and provide this forgiveness and empathy?
I think it starts with, like you said, you knew that your parents came from a loving place, and I knew that my parents were coming, that were loving people underneath it all. And my dad wasn't perfect either. He had, he was the good one, but the love and compassion came with getting older and realizing that they were doing the best they could with what they knew and what they had at the moment. But that did take time. It took being an adult to realize that life is messy and that there's not this instruction book because they're parents. I mean, that's the thing, that we think parents should be perfect when we're younger. And the day that they're just like us. They're trying to figure it out along the way too. And they're doing the best they can with what they have and the knowledge they have and the work that they've done on themselves. But can you see their heart? Are they good people underneath all of that? I think that's where the compassion can come through, to just know they're good people under there and that they really were doing the best they can, and give them an opportunity to start over or to forgive or to have that conversation. Now, there's some people you can't see that good person. He said, I don't know if there's a good person there. And that's a decision you have to make. I have some people that talk about their parents that way, and I'm shocked. Like, wow, like they don't see anything good. Um, but again, the forgiveness is to release you from the negative energy associated with it, not to agree with them. You don't have to agree with them or what they did or how they raised you, but forgive them for your own heart and to release you from the negative energy. It's critical. It really is to be able to heal and start again.
Yeah, people think that if I'm forgiving you, and then I'm losing something. I'm just saying that I don't know. I don't know if it's just ego involved or pride. I don't know. But if it's like I'm giving you an olive branch, it's like no, you're just releasing yourself from that feeling that is really eating you inside. To be honest with you, the more hate you carry, the more resentment you carry, they're living rent free in your head. They're having their own
Yes,
life.
yes. You said it perfectly. It's true. And so why would you give them these people you feel like hurt you or came into your life and did something you know that you're resentful about? Why would you give your power to them? And that's what you're doing. You're letting them affect you. And that's a deciding moment. Like, do you really want these people to affect, like living in rent free in your head, in your mind? And it's time to kick them out. And it's time to have the people in your life that you want in your life. And it is such a freeing moment. When I forgave my mother, I was so free. So that's another reason you will feel like the weight of the world is just lifted off your shoulders. It's worth it. And yes, ego is involved. There's many reasons why people have a hard time doing it, but really it's for yourself.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. I've been trying to apply that into my life more. It's not that I resent other people, but then I would just go a level below. I every now I could hold a couple of grudges. It's not that I think about them often, but it's like I wouldn't trust this person again because of what he or she did. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, even past relationships or friendships or anything like that, I try to uh not do it because at the end of the day, it's like, what's the point? What truly is the point? But it hurts regardless. It hurts regardless, and that's something people need to understand. It's not easy. It's not that it doesn't hurt anymore. That's why I can forgive. No, it still hurts, and yet I choose to forgive.
That's a very good point. To be realistic about this is that that hurt might not ever go away. That's okay. But try to release yourself from being the victim part of it. Because that part, just reframe it, just, try to release it. And one thing that works for me is I've had to feel like, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't talk to that person and change that person. What can I do to release this pain? I had to just think in my mind and know in my heart that life will take care of them, that they're living in hell by doing things to others. They're living in their own pain deep down inside. And even if you think that they're the kind of people that don't care, anybody that treats other people poorly or have done something bad, deep down inside, they're the ones that are in pain.
100%. And I
That's
feel
helped
that
me.
now
That's just one tool that helped me let go and forget.
that is what you said right there is very very true. A lot of people, it's like the old saying, hurt people, right? A lot of people that are trying to hurt you in some way, they're living in their own pain. And you see it a lot on social media when it comes to the comment section, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter, people finding the most insignificant thing to be outraged about. It's just like, I need to express my emotion. I need to, you're wrong, I'm right, and you're dumb, you're stupid. And to me, it's like, imagine waking up every single day looking for things to be mad about, looking for things that you need to attack. It's just, that tells me that that person is extremely unhappy, in a lot of pain, but I don't know if they are aware of that themselves.
No, I think majority of them are not aware, and I do think it's because they don't feel good about themselves and they don't love themselves, and that's controlling others or making others, feel bad, or it's a form of control, and they think that makes them feel in control or better, and it's a crazy thing, but I don't think they're conscious of it. And then there are a few people out there that are truly not good people, and you can't explain that away. They're just not good people. Other people are just lacking a lot of love, maybe from their own upbringing. And, they're not conscious or aware of done the work that they need to do to be the people they really are inside. So it's all up to us, right? And it's hard to distinguish that. But I think most people are basically good. I do. And I think that's, you got to hold on to that deep down inside. And who knows what their story is or what their upbringing was or what they've been through.
Yeah, just having better understanding, be more open-minded, be more empathetic, and understand, hey, I don't know how far this person has come from previous traumas, previous obstacles, and I'm just giving the person the benefit of the doubt of, you know what, yes, is that person's not pleasant, the person's not acting in a good way, but there might be a reason behind it. Now, when it comes to fear, there's something that I struggle with a lot. A lot of my fears come from past traumas, right? But it's not that I can pinpoint a specific moment. The way that I identify with fear is when I'm about to do something that scares me. It could be something related to social anxiety, or anything that my nervous system completely goes off, completely deregulated. My anxiety goes through the roof, and I'm in the fight or flight response. And it's not that I'm thinking, oh, this is the worst case scenario. If I do this, this is what's going to happen. I'm not even thinking. I'm just in blank. I'm just overwhelmed by this physiological uh, sensation, to a point that, as you probably know, the nervous system doesn't know time. So something that you experienced 20, 30 years ago, your nervous system will take it like as it was yesterday, and will just repeat it like that. And it's so frustrating because consciously, there's nothing to be afraid of, and yet your body is trying to keep you safe, too safe, to a point that it freezes you. How do you deal with that? How do you uh, adapt to a point that you can still do the thing despite of having all these physiological emotions or feelings?
My recommendation for that, and I think you just pointed it out a little bit, that usually the fear comes from the past, or not knowing, or going into an uncomfortable place that you've never been before, or it comes from a past what if, or what's the possibility of this happening, or a reminder. So you can tell yourself, you have to consciously tell yourself, is this the same in this moment as the past? Or is this a completely new opportunity? You have to really, look at the moment right in front of you. That's the truth part. Is this the same as what's happened in the past? Or is this different? That's one, first of all. And then just face the fear and keep walking. And most of the time, 98% of what we fear doesn't happen. It's what we think is going to happen. And it's a thought of what's going to happen. And what's the beauty of embracing fear is that once you get on the other side of it, you can experience and grow and do things that you never thought you could. So it's just keep going, keep taking that next step, and be in present time and know that you can handle it. And on the other side, you will realize it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be, majority of the time. Every once in a while, there's real fear. There's a fear of, someone doing something really bad. And that's that's in part of our anatomy to protect ourselves. So that, that's a different thing. So just be really aware, and ask yourself, is this true? Is this real right now? And can I handle this? And just keep going, take another step, take a deep breath, and say, this is a new moment in time. And I'm stronger than I think I am. And on the other side, it will be just an amazing feeling that you accomplished something different than you thought you could.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware that it comes from past traumas. I cannot pinpoint a specific event because I think it's just accumulation of things,
Mm,
how just
yes.
it happened over time. But I know where it comes from, and I've done a lot of self work and inner work to try to understand and to, because that has held me back for so long that I need to
Mm.
move on from that. And the interesting thing is when I'm in that moment, when I have the high anxiety, when my nervous system is deregulated, I'm not thinking about, okay, this is going to this is what is going to happen. This is how I'm going to get embarrassed, or this is what the person's going to tell me. I don't even think about it. Just it's so overwhelming that I can't think of anything. I'm just like frozen. But one thing I've been doing, in fact, I started doing it last week when I was reviewing my notes for our conversation. I did an exercise I've never done before. I start writing down on a notebook things that I've done in the last whatever 3 4 years that I was afraid of, that created that emotional response of that anxiety, but I did it anyway.
There you go.
Almost like
Yes.
building evidence, like telling myself, look, you did this, you can do it again. Because
Yes.
we it's almost like the subconscious needs to hear those and see the evidence until you start healing your nervous system. Do you think that that's what people should be doing, or how do you do it in your case to get to a point where you're still going to feel the fear but at a much lower level?
I agree. I think the more that you realize that you can handle things, you can get through things, the more you're able to do that in the future. And I love that you did that. I think it's really, it's just where's the evidence that I can handle this, that I have been able to get through this, and where's the evidence? So that does build, that gives you confidence, and it gives you the courage to face your fear. There's a saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. And most of the time, you'll be so surprised. You'll be like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad. I got through this." And then write it down. There's more evidence. So, and fear can be a good thing. I've been I like there's a part of fear. There's different, definitions of fear. But I lived about 5 years out of my comfort zone. And I started to kind of like that feeling of feeling like I am so out of my comfort zone right now, but I know something amazing is going to happen because I am choosing to be courageous and go for it and face my fears of speaking. And that's one that was, I had to be very courageous. Writing a book, I'm the worst writer, but I had people help me with my grammar and spelling and things like that. That was, I thought people are going to find out that I don't know how to spell. So faced my fear, very uncomfortable. And so then I started achieving things I never even dreamed imaginable because I got on the other side of that fear, and instead of letting it stop me. So there's also a way to look at fear, like you said, use it as a motivating factor. And we do have to master this fear in life. We do, because it will stop us in our tracks. And you just have to ask yourself, what I'm experiencing, like what you experience, is this real right now? You have to go deeper in that. Like, yeah, is this making sense? What's in front of me to feel like I'm feeling, and maybe it is from the past, but you don't have to go through 20 years of therapy to figure out when it first started. Just know if it's real today. And you still might need to go to therapy to figure it out to help you get into present time. But you can start by saying, is it real right now? That's how you start. I don't know if that would help you.
uh, part of the things that you have said, yes, is trying to tell myself that it's funny, right? Because before I go to a, before I do something that I know that it will create these physiological feelings and reaction. If let's say that one of the things I'm trying to do lately is go out there and interview people on the streets about what's the proudest moment, or what's the biggest fears, and things like trying to share other people's stories to inspire other people, and feel that they can relate and they're not alone in their own feelings and emotions. But interviewing people on the street is extremely intimidating for me. But I imagine the night before going, and to me it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. I mean, just walking and trying to approach somebody, trying to connect with somebody. But the moment I'm there, all bets are off. I mean, I'm just like terrified, terrified.
Yes.
But then,
Yes. I understand.
and I try to tell myself, okay, hold on a second, Daniel. It is fine. I need take it, and this is kind of like embarrassing way, but I've done a few trips, and it took me like 8 trips to finally 7 or 8 trips to finally approach somebody. But to me, it's like it's kind of like exposure therapy. I still need to show up. I still need to do it, and eventually, I'll have enough courage, or I will be desensitized from the fear that I will perhaps do one step and approaching one person, and having self compassion. I think it's one of the most important things I've been trying to do more lately, because I used to judge myself a lot.
Yes. Yes. It doesn't have to be perfect, and we don't have to be perfect. And another thing that might be helpful, I don't know, but it's helped me in the past too, is thinking, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll be completely embarrassed. Or can I handle that? Yeah, I can handle that. I've been through worse things in life. It's like, or, speaking in front of a group of people. What if I forget my lines? Could I handle that? I could. I could. I would be embarrassing, but what's the worst thing that can happen? I'd still be fine. And I'd be more proud and for that I tried. At least I tried and I got up there and I attempted. We can't accomplish great things if we don't even attempt because of the fear of what might happen, right?
Yeah, we
So do be proud of ourselves for attempting it and know that we can handle the worst case scenario. And that helps me a lot because I've done some crazy things. And there's moments I go, why? And why on earth did I do this? Why did I say I'd do this?
I know. Yeah, we suffer more in our minds than in reality, and we know that. But also, there's something that I try to remind myself daily. It's like people regret things that they didn't do. They rarely regret things that they did do, and it's just like, okay, maybe do that. But it's funny because that took me to a memory when you mentioned like, okay, I've done worse things. I've gone through worse a situation when you feel that you might be embarrassed. That's the worst case scenario. And I had like years ago, like a friend of mine who we were at a bar, and he saw like this, attractive girl, and he wanted to approach her. But I was like, dude, I mean, what's the worst case? I mean, what's the worst case scenario? Well, I'm being embarrassed. I feel like this. I feel like that. And I said, well, what's the problem? And then he, dead serious, dude, I'd rather be waterboarded than go through that pain. I know.
Oh,
I know.
oh, no, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it was being sarcastic or joking, but to me, it's like, because you have experienced that pain before, you have not experienced the other pain. So you think that even you've been using hyperbolas and all, it's like, okay, this is worse. But yes, that is something that it's hard. It's just hard when you feel that you might be, especially the feeling of embarrassed, which comes from the ego, caring too much what people think about us. And I've tried to tell myself, look, even if they judge you, even if you make a fool of yourself, after probably 5-10 minutes at most, they'll forget. They will be on to the next thing and the next thing. People are so distracted nowadays that it's so easy to just be lost in their tons of other things that they are uh distracted by, I guess. And we think, and this is just a memory, it's like we think that some people, because of the especially the story they told me that you live for 5 years in outside of your comfort zone, we feel that some people are fearless and some people are not. But I think that everyone feels the fear. I think that some people have a different relationship with fear itself. How can we change our relationship with fear to use it as a tool?
Really looking at it as an opportunity to grow. That's how I look at fear. And fear, it can serve us. It can serve us to find out what maybe has happened to us in the past that's getting in the way in the future. That serves us. Like, there's something that's happened and I need to deal with this because it's keeping me from living my life fully today. That's one way. And then fear can be real, right? Something bad's going to happen, and fear, it makes you take care of yourself and act, respond. So that's a good thing. And also, fear is a part of going and growing and going into the unknown and the discomfort of growing and doing something you've never done before. And how are you going to know how to do that? Instead of, you have to go to that uncomfortable place, and that's fear. But on the other side of that fear, you accomplish things that you never thought you could. And that's exhilarating. So there's a lot of good things that can come from looking at fear from different perspectives.
Yeah, and I feel that yes, we can only grow from discomfort. We can only grow from doing things that pushes our boundaries, pushes ourselves to either pivot or to do things that go against what we like to do. But at the same time, one thing that I've struggled a lot with, that I feel that that's what a lot of people are not aware of, is the stories that our brain creates to avoid certain things. For instance, when I was trying to, as well, when I was mentioning the story of me going out there and interviewing people, my brain started telling me after the fourth or fifth trip, my brain started telling me the story. I mean, it's probably not worth it. Really, it's just you're not gonna grow an audience like that. People won't enjoy it. People won't be able to connect with it. It just those things that then, if you listen carefully or if you pay attention to them, then you might believe those stories, and that is just to 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 stop you from doing the thing, to stop you from. And the problem is when we believe it. Yeah, I mean, of course, it just, even though people call it an excuse, but you can actually believe that story. How can you stop yourself? Or I mean, I do it naturally because I create enough self-awareness, but when I'm trying to explain to people how they can do it, because when they give me reasons and excuse, I don't want to say, dude, that's an excuse, because uh, nobody wants to hear that they're doing something wrong. But how can you help people to see it's like, can you challenge that story? Can you challenge that thing and see whether that is true or not?
Yes, I mean, it's don't believe everything you think. That's the first
Pretty
thing.
much.
It is not always true. Our brain, we have so many thoughts going through our brain every minute, and a lot of them are from the past. And you don't have to believe everything, and just start to be aware in present time what you're thinking. You just have to slow your thinking down to actually see the thoughts going through your head, and then you have to challenge the ones that might not be serving you, and ask yourself, is that thought true right now? Is it still true today in this moment? And then you have to wait and listen for the answer. And if it's true, then you can respond to that. If it's not true, then change it to a different belief. I call them limiting beliefs to a empowering belief that's true. That's how it's work, and it's only we can do it. And you have to slow yourself down, get into present time. Meditation helps with that. Do whatever it takes to get into present time, to start listening to your own brain. You have to have that quiet time. And if there's something happening and you're just obsessively thinking about something is not helping you, get to a place where you can just slow down and slow down your thinking and ask yourself these questions and listen for the answer, and then change them. Have a journal and keep track of some of these thoughts that are not serving you, and then change them to something else, because our thoughts have energy, and negative or positive, they do create things. And we can change these limiting thoughts that are not serving us.
I need to do that more often. I live between the past and the future. I've been trying to do a better job of staying in the present. And what you're saying is true. How powerful our thoughts are, and for some reason, the negative ones are have almost like an immediate impact. The positive ones take time to build and to change that our brain biochemistry, and truly start believing on, hey, I can do this, or hey, I'm confident, or hey, I'm courageous. Those kind of things are extremely hard, but it takes time. And just like me, very impatient guy, I tried a few times here and there, and it's like, it's not working, whatever. But yes, I appreciate you sharing that, because it's true. It's something that I've been trying to apply more into my life. I've been, failing here and there, but I'm trying to still do those things that I know that eventually will put me in a position in which I can deal with fears, insecurities, self doubts in a much better way.
Absolutely. I mean, and do, give yourself grace, give yourself self-compassion and love and forgiveness, and know that it does take time to retrain our brains. And so, laugh at yourself like, oh, there's that thought again. And make it more lighthearted, makes it easier to remember instead of just, being upset that, oh, there I go again. So just do it with a lightheartedness, and it does take time. Give yourself a lot of grace.
Yes, and I think I'm pretty sure that you talk about this um with your clients, is how they can, the reason, trying to find a reason why they feel fear, and in many instances it's just we're not familiar with a new thing. It's just new to us, and that creates the overwhelmed feeling that is like, and it's just the same way when we went to the first day of school, or first day of college, or we learned how to drive the first time. We were terrified. It was totally new to us, and yet we're doing things that it is hard to see those silly things that we did in the past, and that we overcome those fears. Just But if we try to pinpoint, it's like that feeling came from being something new, being something that it wasn't familiar to us, and that's why we were feeling the way that we were feeling.
Yes. And it's not it's very uncomfortable because we feel out of control. We don't know what's going to happen. It's the unknown, but the unknown can be our friend too. If you kind of step in, and that's a sense that a lot of people don't like. It just feels out of control. I need to know exactly what's going to happen, but we don't. That's just part of being in the human race, and living this life. And the more that we can embrace the unknown, the more that we will start to know that we can do things that we don't know what the outcome's going to be. And a lot of those things are magical too, not just scary.
Yeah, I'm in that journey right now of trying to surrender, a bit, be more
Yes,
in a
yes.
surrender stuff in a way, because
Yes.
I have a toxic relationship with uncertainty. I want to control as much as I can. I want to know what's going to happen, and it's taking me a while to figure it out. It's like, there's nothing that you can do to
Yes.
predict whether the future, whether it's a day from today, a week from today, a month. Just surrender and just like, hey, whatever happens, happens, and we'll cross the bridge when we get there. But it's hard.
Yes, it is hard. It's not easy, and just control what you can control and let the rest go, and be prepared, and having your put strong intentions of how you want things to go in your life, but being ready to pivot if you need to when things change that are out of your control, because that's one thing we can't control. There's a lot of change, our we're going to change, people around us are going to change, the weather changes. So just what we can control. There's a lot of things that we can control, and if it's to just have those things, you can. Yeah.
almost everything. I mean, we can only control what we do and how we react to things. Everything else is just completely outside of control. And
Yes. Yes. So the sooner we realize that and can embrace that, the happier we will all be.
yes, yes, just
Yeah,
come to a peace
and it's just a
to that.
better
It's like,
place to just know what's coming. Say there's a lot of things I don't have any control over, and that's okay. But I can control my thinking and how I respond, and that brings that power back to yourself.
absolutely, absolutely. Yes, and I know that you talk about a lot about courage, and to me, I used to be one of those people who thought or who felt that I wasn't courageous or I didn't have courage because I had a lot of fears. And then I realized that courage is not the lack of fear, but having the fear and do it anyway, still do it. And
Yes,
that's evidence. And we feel, well, and I think you talk a lot about it. It's like we feel that we're not courageous because we have the fear, but we don't see what the true definition of courage is.
it is. And also, there's a French word, a corps, meaning heart. Whether it means heart, but it's also a word for courage in French. So there's another word. That's another way to look at courage. Is it's really connecting to ourselves deep down inside, and it is facing all of it. But that we're stronger if we know that it comes from within. We can face anything. We can face fear. So it's not the absence of fear. It's facing that fear, finding that courage, and doing it anyway.
Yeah, which I need to reread that book. Susan Jeffers had the book "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway." That helped me change my mindset, and those are one of those books when you need to. I need to reread that. I need to remember. I need that nice reminder. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, Terry, it's been a wonderful conversation, a very insightful conversation. And as a closing question, what's the hardest thing that you ever done in your life?
That's a good question. Okay, I went back to a moment that I haven't shared with you, another story of when I lost everything to a con artist. I had no money, lost my credit. I didn't have a house, and I had to sleep on my girlfriend's couch. And I was too embarrassed to ask my parents for help, and I borrowed someone's car, and I would go to work every day and start saving money, and I got my life back. And I remember when I rented my first room, I bought my furniture, I bought my new car, I got my credit back. I was very, very um, proud of myself. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, besides leaving my mother when I was 8.
That is powerful. That is really powerful, and it speaks volume of the type of person you are, how strong you are, and just going back to what I said at the beginning, some things either make you or break you. And it just seems that some people have easier lives, some people have less challenges in front of them, less obstacles, and some other people face like tough obstacles like yourself. And something there's a fire inside of you that helps you just come out of the other side much better and stronger. And that is like, besides being mind-blowing, it's truly inspiring.
Thank you so much. I think if I wouldn't have gone through the things that I've gone through in my life, I wouldn't be here with you speaking the things that I'm talking about, my story and my strength. So I also look at some of these things as an opportunity that made me who I am today. It made me go deep and find out who I really am inside. So look at these fears, these challenges and obstacles that show up in your life as an opportunity to grow and learn invaluable life lessons. So thank you so much for having me so that I can share with you my story and my insights.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Seriously, it's one of the most inspiring interviews I've had on the podcast. Truly, it's just it makes you want to just go ahead and run through a wall and just like let me face my fears and let me go full steam. And if somebody like Terry was able to overcome tough challenge because you give people perspective. We sometimes when I hear these kind of stories, I realize, see, life is not too bad on my end. I have different fears. If people like Terry can do this, I should be able to do this other thing. And I think that is like that is I think your calling, your purpose is using your life story, your life challenges to inspire other people and to help other people become not only a better version of themselves, but finding a the courage to live a more fulfilling and happier life.
Absolutely. If I can do it, so can you, is what I'm trying to give back and share my story that you can do hard things and come out on the other side, and doesn't matter. Start again today, and anything, almost anything is possible. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And Terry, where can people find you if they want to work with you?
The best place is on my website, which is Terry, Terry, Sidford, SIDFORD at gmail.com. My books are online. They're also on Amazon, and my newsletters and everything you need to know is there. So just come, if you want to reach out to me, go to my website.
Perfect. Yes, I'll add all of those to the show notes and the YouTube description. And once again, Terry, was a complete pleasure and honor talking to you today.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. It was an honor to be your
Okay.
guest.